Well, well, well. That wasn't quite the Sunday we expected. The Cowboys, the Niners, the Ravens, and finally the Rams. Quite the upset central in week 2. We'll catch you up on all the aftermath.
Bucks and Lions. Bucks came in a little wounded, but when you got the Baker man beside you, nothing's impossible.
And here we thought the Chiefs were going to have a fairly easy one against these hapless Bungles. Not so much for most of it, but in the final few minutes, the Zebras came back out to play. Just how much of a break did KC catch this time around?
And the Jets and Giants. Two teams, same city. Jets have seemed to right the ship, at least for this week. Giants, same old story. Is it time for a strip down and a rebuild?
Quite the topsy-turvy week 2 around the NFL. Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee, catching you up on all the action.
Well, hello there. Week 2, and oh, what a week it was. Nutmeg, nutmeg. The doubters were out in full force, but you know,
Yeah, there's certainly no shortage of storylines in week 2, whether it's your survivor pool's blowing up again, whether it's your fantasy team looking quite underwhelming, whether it's your your DV's activities on the betting market not playing out in your favor. Uh, there's quite a bit that happened in this second Sunday of the NFL season, Bucks McGee.
I'm telling you, man, week 2, man, like you said, if it's fantasy, if you were betting, man, it was a rough week. Rough week.
Yeah, let me make sure I'm not bleeding anywhere here. So, because there's so many storylines that are kind of tied together, let's get our teams out of the way first. And one game that actually lived up to billing was, of course, your Buccaneers. Very interesting one in this one. You had, of course, the privilege of watching this one. I had to deal with the Cowboys and Panthers, but the Bucks, I think it's safe to say they did a pretty decent job of holding the vaunted Lions offense in check.
For those people who doubted Baker Mayfield, shame upon you. That man was incredible today. Um, we were the walking wounded, we had some injuries, especially on the defensive side. And it was a situation of, if we can just hold, keep the game close, we might have a shot. And that's exactly the game plan. Guys stepped up on the defensive end. Baker was able to escape some sacks, even though he was sacked 4.5 times. By Hutch there, got to give Hutch his credit there. Unbelievable. But even through all that, 20-16 win, we'll take it.
Yeah, you brought that up to me early on. You said Hutch had like 3 sacks in the first quarter or something, whatever it was.
It was,
your offensive, you were over here wondering if the defensive line was going to be the issue. The offensive line, I guess, was the one with the growing pains in this one.
it was just, it was one of those things where they just consistently, they wouldn't put help on that side. They would just let Hutch go one-on-one, and he was beating it. And then after half, they kind of figured it out, through the backs over on that side to kind of chip to hold him off a bit. And Baker with his incredible escapability, dude, I was impressed. I was impressed. I didn't think the man could move like that.
He is a mobile quarterback.
He is, man. And when you watch him, and him and Godwin were on point. He's got that sidearm, man. He's got that nifty little sidearm. I think it's a little better looking than Mahomes' personally, but I'm just biased. But at the end of the day, you pull it out, and they're sitting at 2-0, and you got to be honest and legit and give this team somewhat of a puncher's chance.
Yeah, it's funny you say like they were just single blocking Asa Hutchinson. It's like you think of all the defensive ends in years past that get double teamed. Jared Allen, Freeney, Strahan, like the real like kind of titans of recent memory, and you don't necessarily think that. I guess nobody's gonna make the mistake of single blocking Hutchinson again.
At, if he continues on this pace, he's going to blow Strahan's record by who knows how many sacks. The guy is quick. He's incredible. Got to give the guy all the talent. But Detroit may have some injury issues. The Sun God himself there got injured, towards the end of the game with the ankle. So that's going to be something to watch out on their side. And it seems like they kind of got away from the run in this game.
Yeah.
It wasn't like last week where, that last drive against the Rams, they just sat there and pounded the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see what Detroit does next week.
Yeah, I was just about to get into Tampa Bay's kind of spreading the offense around, but Detroit, like Amon-Ra was the only one that had a decent game. Everyone else was pretty quiet.
They went to, Williams a little bit, but it was weird. It seemed like Goff was definitely off, especially with the 2 picks. It just seemed like the offense just wasn't there. They were really rough on third down. They got in the red zone, really couldn't do anything either, which surprised me a lot.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's, just some kinks they're going to work out. It could be, attributed to the not enough preseason, games and all that. But at the end of the day, it's regular season. You got to win when you got to win.
Yeah, you shake off week 1 struggles because you figure, okay, that was effectively a dress rehearsal that should have been the preseason. But when they carry over into week 2, then you're like, scratch your chin a little bit.
Exactly. So if this goes on for the next couple of weeks, then there's going to be some questions, about what's going on. Maybe do they believe the hype? Because now they're more of the hunted than the hunters. Let's be realistic. Them and the Niners are probably the one before today were the 1-2 picks to, lead the NFC to the Super Bowl. So
I want to talk for a quick minute here about how Tampa's offenses were spread around a little bit because we're used to just Baker loading up and even Brady in the past, just loading up Mike Evans and kind of just tunnel vision on that side of the field. But Mike Evans really didn't have that impressive of a day to day, and Chris Godwin was the one that was the big target, and a lot of it was Chris Godwin for me. Just looking at the stats afterwards, because the running game, you one of your big points to have success against the Lions was the running game. You just show up. I don't think the running game showed up either, really.
No, they had a couple runs where they'd maybe plug 5 yards, but it was just the play action and Baker's mobility. That's what it was. This year with this offense, they really pressed the fact that Godwin was going back to the slot, his natural position, and that's where he needed to be. That's not where he was last year. So I think and I think this also shows that there's still some issues in the secondary in Detroit. It's just when Baker was able to scramble out, they were able to find holes in the secondary and they were able to perform.
What do you think as far as on the other side, the Lion? What was their biggest issue with this one? Was it just not being able to deal with the pressure from Tampa Bay, with just keeping Goff out of sorts, or was there maybe bigger issues exposed?
I just see it. Just felt like they just got out of what they do best. Like I don't think they ran the ball enough. I really don't. I think they almost got kind of too cute with the offense. Like I said last week, when they needed it the most, they gave the ball to Montgomery and he literally pounded the ball in and scored. Like I think that's what they need to get back to. Run and then let the pass come on, let the pass develop off of that. You've got these 2 great backs, but it seems like they have too much of a good thing. It's one of those things where you've got all this talent, but you don't know who to get the ball to, when to, and it almost seems like they'd be better off with just one back.
Yeah.
So I think
too many cooks in the kitchen.
Exactly. So I think for them, they've got to get back to the run game, and I think that's going to help the pass game because I think teams see them as a pass-first team, and if you have that athletic defense like Tampa has, speed on the ends, linebackers, your corners are physical. They were able to come up at the line, and hold Detroit's running backs. There were a few, runs of 15, 20 yards, but maybe 2 or 3, as opposed to when the Lions are on fire, they're popping off 5 or 6 runs like that, and both guys are close to 100 yards and just exploding. So I think they really need to get back to what they do best.
Yeah. Now we won't spend too much time on my lowly team after the embarrassment that was this week to Sunday. I was thinking,
Wow.
it's not
Malik
exactly.
Willis.
Huh?
Malik Willis.
Yeah, don't remind me. It's not exactly the most dreamiest of starts to the schedule to go against Houston and the Green Bay Packers. But you figure, like, okay, we hung tight with Houston, and then Green Bay, we luck out with Jordan Love's injury. Obviously not for him, and we're not wishing injury upon people, but it works out on the other side of the ledger. So it's like, okay, well, you know what, we'll take it. Malik Willis, we're used to playing him from Tennessee. He wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire as a Titan, so you know what, this should be something we should handle pretty well, and let's get back in the left hand column and figure out what the rest of the season is. But nope. Anthony Richardson's a turnover machine, and Green Bay chugs this one out. So give me something not to burn all my Colts jerseys right now.
Well, I watched this game too. I had this game on the second screen, so it was almost like Detroit. They got away from the run a bit. It was like, okay, let's let AR freelance, and everyone was so enamored with that 64, 65-yard bomb he had last week. The rainbow, that's what everybody talked about. Well, it was like that's all he was looking to do. I don't think. Well, Taylor had a good chunk of yardage, but it was, I think, if they had concentrated and said, okay, you know what, let's go run, and let's work off of that. And even if it's 5-10 yard passes and stuff like that, it just seemed they were looking for the home run ball all the time, and they just couldn't connect. And I give Green Bay credit, man. That defense pinned its ears and said, okay, well, this is what they do. This is what Indy does. We're gonna stop it. Now, it wasn't like Green Bay had a bad defense. They have solid names on this defense, but I think people think of them as more of an offensive team, and the defense is there and complements them.
Yeah.
But the defense came today and did what they needed to do. So my hat's off to them. I just think Indy needs to just say, okay, you know what? Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's keep it basic. Because let's not forget, AR was pretty much out all year.
Yeah.
Last year. So it's not like this is his, he's coming off a full year and this and that. He's basically this is almost like a redo of last year for him. So make it a little simple. You've got, Taylor in the backfield. You've got decent weapons at the receiver section, You got a decent tight end. Like, let's use these. Let's take our time. But it didn't happen that way.
No, and like you said, the rubbing the salt in the wound of Malik Willis looking like a functional professional athlete.
Most of the prop bets were like, will he throw for like 120 yards?
Yeah.
Like, no, like it was like, oh man, that's a guarantee. Give me 20 on that. That's easy peasy.
Yeah, the Mendoza line of quarterback statistics. So 100 yards, thank you.
I'll give him credit though. I'll give him credit. He didn't try to do too much. He delivered a decent ball. Like, he wasn't like he's not trash. Like, let's be real. I think it was a bad situation in Tennessee, and I think if he went to an organization that they could really work with them and he could sit behind somebody really.
Yeah.
But I give him credit. He didn't make too many mistakes. He did what he was told to do, and Green Bay comes out with a win.
Yeah, much to my chagrin. Anyway, the obviously the big kind of cumulative storyline of week 2 was all the upsets, and we'll start off with the Dallas Cowboys. I know you were hoping that they do you a favor and knock the Saints down a peg.
If there was any time that I would have walked around my house with a blue star on, today was the day. I was like, all right, Dallas is going to do me a favor. I'm not going to trash him too much. They're going to do me a favor. I won't trash him. I'll be nice to him this season. I'm like, all right, here we go. Nope. They make Derek Carr look like I don't know what. Kamara puts up 4 touchdowns. No, man. Like, for everyone who wants to sit there and attempt to tell me that Dallas is one of the Super Bowl contenders, you can take that trash somewhere else. There's absolutely no way. You sign Dak, you sign CD to all this money, you're supposed to have this great defense, and you let Derek Carr just sit there and look like a freaking Pro Bowler. I'm done.
And it wasn't just that. To me, the big failure was the defense, and it's not just that Carr went down and was like surgical, like Purdy was against the Jets on Monday night. It wasn't like that. They just gave up so many big plays, whether it was Kamara, whether it was Shaheed. Olave got free.
Shaheed was
Olave was a ghost last week, and he got free a couple times.
Shaheed's running down the field by himself. He's like, oh, okay. Like, they're like, seriously, like you said, it was all big plays. Like last year, Dallas had some injuries in the secondary and stuff like that, but you didn't see this. Like,
right.
this is interesting. So now the question is, was this just, it was just a bad week, or is this defense not as good as we think it is?
Well, and that's the funny part, because we were led to expect that was the strength of Dallas's defense. Their secondary's fast. They're aggressive. They try to jump routes. The Diggs and Bland. I haven't heard Bland's name once in 2 games this season. We expected that to be the strength, where they can keep up with all these speedsters that they might face on opposing teams' offense, and they just got burned so much. Like, I know that historically they don't have a great home record, but I can only blame that so much.
People were saying, "Oh, Dallas had 6 sacks last week; they could have 6 this week." This, offensive line for the Saints is supposed to be almost like a patchwork quilt. Like, they've had issues up on the line. No one really believes in this offense, but Dallas made it seem like, dude, they're world beaters.
And there was even one play where the Saints defense was almost playing more like the Cowboys defense in the past, where they were taking chances, because they had CD in a little bracket double coverage, and they both went for the ball, completely whiffed on it, and CD just sat there, caught it, and ran down for a touchdown. But it's like, the Saints, in this type of game, can afford to do that when they spot themselves 14-3, 21-3 type of lead. The Cowboys, if they're playing like that, they can't do this if that's what they're going to do. If they're going to let quarterbacks sit back there and just hum it downfield for 40 yards every time.
And Lattimore was out again today with the hamstring injury. So you're sitting there saying, okay, the Saints have to be susceptible to the pass. CD should eat, and he did for the most part. But you're like, but that's the problem with this Dallas team. All it is CD. They don't have there aren't any other real pieces. Cooks is okay, but you can't run the ball. You had to bring Zeke back. Like, let's be realistic here. You had to bring Zeke back. You're telling me there was no one else you could have thrown some money to that would have came? Like, really? Like, you couldn't have figured something out? So
Derrick
Henry. Like, let's be real here. So now this is your team. No one fears Dallas. They'll think, their defense is solid for the most part, but that offense it's Dak, CD, and a bunch of parts. It's not good. Dallas, they need to bounce back next week for sure, because if this is not a good look at all.
It's funny to me you put it that way, because the Fox guys were doing a little hit with Dak Prescott in the pregame, and they put up his yardage last season, 45 whatever it was, third in the NFL. And I'm thinking to myself, like, CD had almost 1,800 yards. So that's like, what, 40% of yards were to one guy? And so you think, like, Cooks and Ferguson's okay, but he's not great. I know he was out in this one.
He had Pollard, catching passes out of the backfield. So they had plenty of guys who could catch the ball. You look at this team this year, who else is there?
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, legitimate number 2 receiver. And the run game is putrid. So, all right, Dallas, enjoy that.
Yeah, it's funny. What was the book on Dallas last year? Just run the ball. You keep them off the field, and you'll get 4 touchdowns on the ground easy. This year, it may just be just do whatever you can to double and triple cover CD, and then Dak's not gonna have anywhere else left to throw.
Exactly. Say, okay, Ferguson, I'm going to let you beat me. Cooks, I know you're fast. Drop somebody back. Then who else you got? Go ahead, Zeke, run the ball 40 times. Let's see what you got.
One that was a little surprising to me this week was a temporary life after CMC for the Niners. And I'm thinking like, well, you know what? They're going to Minnesota. Minnesota's coming off high. They're coming off a win. Granted, it's the Giants, but whatever. The win's a win, I suppose. Um, and here they are doing their home opener. They host the Niners. Like, okay, the Niners are in a little rough spot without CMC, but they were able to beat the Jets last weekend without CMC.
Mm-hmm.
So you think like, okay, they should beat the Vikings. Just they've got a good defense. You just figure out how to take Jefferson out of the game. Not only did not figure out how to take Jefferson out of the game, they gave him an almost 100-yard touchdown to him in the first half. So what was the difference with the Niners team last week when they were okay without McCaffrey, and then this week where they look like they're missing both their legs and all their fingers?
Well, don't forget the Vikings beat them last year too. I think it's one of those things where a team just knows how to beat you, and you can't explain it. It's almost like it's an anomaly. It's just you chalk it up to, well, we just can't beat them. I don't get what happened. Sam Darnold, another one, looking like a Pro Bowler. The Jets were probably sitting there saying, where was this guy?
Yeah.
Where was this guy? Maybe Carolina was like, where's this guy?
Yeah, right.
You know,
yeah, that's true. They had him for a little while too.
You know, so it was just a thing where the Vikings aren't a horrible team. They have some talent, but yeah, you would have thought, with the defense of the Niners and everything like that, it may have been a situation where maybe the first quarter or so it's kind of close, and then the Niners just find their footing because, CMC is gone. So now you've got to figure out what this offense is going to be. You got Mason. He's, had a great game against the Jets. So you're thinking, okay, this is going to continue. Maybe they're not going to miss a beat. Minnesota said, we don't care who you got. We're going to do what we do. Jay Jettis, scores, puts up some good numbers, gets hurt in the game. So that's going to be something to watch for them. But overall, Minnesota just went in there, went and handled business. I don't know how to explain it. I really don't.
And barring the continued surprising results continuing tonight, the Minnesota Vikings could be in first place by themselves on Monday morning.
And who would have thought Monday morning, the Minnesota Vikings? I don't know.
Do you think there's what should be the best strategy for the Niners to withstand this period of no McCaffrey? Is it like continue with the same strategy, maybe not without the dump offs, but keep relying on the ground with Mason and maybe take the dump offs with someone like Debo, and then just keep the rest of your passing game plan regular with Kittle and the Ayuk? And
I think you got to keep it the same because that's how successful they were. The offense ran through CMC. Now Mason is not CMC, but he seems like he's a capable back. You might have to, go to the tight ends a little more, go to Kittle a bit more maybe, but I don't think you deviate from what There's talent there. That's just, I think they had a bad game. But, like we said, we feel that this is their last year for a legit Super Bowl chance because this team is going to drastically change next year. Yeah. If they can win the next three, then I think they're all right. It's like, all right, we hit the bump. You have these games, not every team's going 17-0, every, elite team. So this is one of those games, they took it on the chin and you move on, but they need to go on a bit of a run starting next week.
And I guess Jettis knew what he was doing by re-signing. We're a lot of people are sitting there thinking like, Cousins is gone. You don't know who your quarterback is. You drafted a young kid. Okay, he's got some potential, but he's still a young quarterback. And of course, then he gets hurt in the preseason on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
So people are really wondering, like, what is Jettis doing? But I mean, maybe Darnold, like you said before, maybe he's not so bad after all, and Jettis made the right decision by hanging around.
Hey, and Minnesota, was willing to throw him the money. So, hey, you stay, you do your thing. And he's relatively young. So he's still going to probably be pretty much in his prime once the contract ends. So give Minnesota their dues, give them their flowers. They could be, like you said, division leaders by Monday.
Speaking of Flowers, Zay Flowers is a Baltimore Raven, of course, and the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if I can defend this one. You're supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. You got kind of a tough luck loss on opening night to the champs. You gotta come in this one in your home opener and stomp the Raiders. Okay, nothing. I mean, obviously Uncle Rico did a lot for my team last year, but their run game is absolutely abysmal. Uncle Rico is serviceable backup, but he's really has yet to prove himself as a starter long term in this league. What are you doing, Ravens? What are you doing?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a situation, and I've said this about other teams. If you believe you believe in your press clippings, I don't know that the Ravens should be 1-1. Like we said, week 1, hard luck loss by a toe. I get it. It was the Chiefs, understandable, but it's the Raiders.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to, there's some talent on that team, but you think on paper, you're looking at these teams. Okay, the Ravens should be able to handle this. You would think, Derrick Henry would, put up 80, 85 yards, a touchdown or two. They would get right back on track. Nope. It was like they were struggling to figure things out, and the Raiders knew it, and they were like, all right, all we've got to do is just keep pace, and if we can be in it in the fourth quarter, we've got a shot. They believed it, and the Ravens are now 0-2, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
And that could be an interesting big picture topic, because you think, from the Raiders, like in-game mentality, just stay close, just stay close. We'll pounce when the getting's good. The Ravens are a team that can never seem to finish anything out in the postseason, and this game, does it matter in the big picture? Probably not, but it's a microcosm of a bigger problem where they just cannot, that they get up, they have a nice lead or something, and they just coast, and they can't flip the switch and turn it back on, and they can't ever finish out what they need to do to get the job done.
Like I said, I don't know if it was just a breakdown today, but yeah, you're 0-2. You have to sit there and say, okay, 0-2. How'd everybody else finish? We've got to do what we got to do, because the way the AFC is pretty stacked. If we don't win the division, we don't want to have to rely on a wild card, because you don't want these 2 losses to somehow hinder you. It's what's going on, Lamar. Let's get it right. The defense, I think, is still okay, but that offense just isn't clicking like it should. I don't know what it is. I don't know if maybe they're missing a bit in the run game, because Derrick Henry really hasn't shown up the first 2 games, let's be honest. And I thought he was going to be the piece, and he was just going to eat. So I don't know if maybe he's lost it. I'll give him a couple more games, but if you tell me by week 6, week 7, he's only got like 200 yards and maybe 1 touchdown, then that experiment's failed. And then if you guys are barely 500, you got to figure it out.
And since you brought it up, speaking of the division, the 0-2 supposedly favored Ravens looking up at who? The 2-0 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Justin Fields, man. Justin Fields going to lead them to the promised land. But let's premise this. They played Denver. Like it wasn't like they beat,
Yeah.
like Kansas City or something. Like they beat Denver. Now, I give Denver credit.
We had pegged to win 2 games.
So far I'm doing pretty good. Well, Denver's a work in progress, we know, but The Steelers with that defense, you give them credit, and like they said, you just have Justin do what he needs to do. He doesn't have to be spectacular. He doesn't have to throw for 400 yards. He works within that frame of that offense, and I think he's the starter. If they come back and say, "Oh, Russ is ready to go," Russ needs to be sitting on that bench wearing the headset.
Yeah, you just sit and be patient and wait your time just in case Justin has some growing pains or something.
Exactly. He loses 2 in a row. All right, here we go. But right now, you're 2-0, leading the division.
Russell Wilson, the new Joe Flacco. Who'd have thunk?
No, who would have thunk? Russell Wilson backing up Justin Fields.
On the Steelers of all teams. The final salt in the wound for the Ravens on this one is the fact that John Harbaugh 0-2, Jim Harbaugh 2-0. Now, granted, likewise, beat the Broncos, the Chargers beat the Panthers. But still, 0-2, 2-0, family dinner table. What's the word I'm looking for? And on top of that, a common opponent victory in Jim's favor because of the Raiders.
Yeah, I don't think they're meeting each other in the AFC Championship game, so I think we could scratch that off the table. But yeah, 2-0. You look at your brother and be like, "You got Lamar, I got besides Herbie some stuff. I don't know, but like they're not horribly like they've got some talent. They got talent, but let's be real. Like you would think, Ravens would be at least 1-1, but it's not. So the Ravens really need to look at it and kind of go back to the drawing board and come out next week and just try to run a clean game plan, because if they lose again, if they go 0-3, ooh, I think you sit there, like if this season just ends up being an utter disaster, I think you start to hear whispers of maybe you need a new voice in the locker room.
Yeah, he's been there a long time. He got the Super Bowl, but maybe even Super Bowl voices get stale sometimes.
Exactly. The only coach that gets away with it, and we still question it, is Tomlin. The greatest mediocre coach for the last 5-6 years, 9-8. He's the man. But that's how the Steelers run their organization. That's their gig. But he's 2-0, so right now I can't gripe him. But the Ravens got to figure it out.
And the last upset to me of week 2 was not nearly to the same gravitas as the Cowboys, Niners, or Ravens, but nonetheless, the Rams were a playoff team. We were expecting them to be pretty decent. They hung with the Lions in week 1, and they kind of got their doors blown off them by the lowly Cardinals. And Marvin Harrison Jr. looked like his father.
Doors getting blown off is kind. You're being kind. That was a whooping and a half. So you're telling me that Puka Nacua is the reason that team is good. He is the glue to that team, because it looked like they had no idea what they were doing on that field. It was horrible. The freaking Cardinals they were playing nasty. Their deep Buda Baker was just running around causing havoc. That team was like, no, we're winning today. And the Rams came in and were like, okay, we're here. Like it was like you could tell that the Cardinals came to play, and the Rams were like, okay, here we are. We'll put up 30 points. We'll be good.
Yeah.
I don't know if Matt Stafford's showing his age now, or it's like I said, unless Puka is the reason that offense runs. But if that's the case, they're in for a few weeks of hurt.
That's a problem, and he's supposed to be out for longer than CMC.
Yeah, they were saying 3 to 4, but they're thinking more 4 to 6. Yeah, I like this knee thing. I don't like it, and if they try to rush him back, I think it's a situation where he's just going to end up missing the rest of the season. Like I don't like it. So, yeah, Rams bad shape.
Can you imagine if the Niners have trouble with an injury, and the Rams have trouble with an injury, and the Seattle Seahawks are the first place team in this division? No disrespect to the Cardinals, of course, but I mean, let's see some consistency first.
Yeah, we gave you the one game. Let's calm it down. But no, you're right. It's one of those things where it's week 2, but if you were to ask any pundit about, what week 2 would have looked like, wouldn't have been this at all. And the Rams just didn't have it today. Just didn't have it. Like they showed, like there were some pockets where the defense seemed to start to, pick it up a bit, but the Cardinals just slammed the door. They could not hang with Maserati Marv. Could not hang with him.
Could you see this as like an eye-opening moment for young Kyler as far as to get his act together finally? And now he sees what he can be with a big time wide receiver talent, and Connor. Obviously, he's got to stay healthy because that's his problem. A strong run game. Maybe the light goes on for Kyler Murray.
He could be like, wow, this is what those other quarterbacks have. Wow. Like you work hard and you get guys and this is what happens. Hopefully it does, because the guy's got talent. Yeah, he's a little undersized, but he's got talent. So hopefully he looks at this and says, hey, you know what? I've got pieces here. We can do something if we really work at it. We could probably be a wild card team, or at least, be there towards the end of the year. We might be a year away still, but it all depends on what Kyler wants to do. It's Kyler's call at that point. If he wants to screw this up, that's fine. It's the NFL. They'll just get somebody else.
Yeah, we'll switch over to an Empire state of mind, if you will, as both New York teams went into week 2 at 0-1, and they both come out of this with a different result. Now, I was a little surprised by the Giants, but we'll talk the Jets first, just because that's where the attention is. The Jets could have lost this one. I mean, they were playing down for a good chunk of the first half. They stormed back. They got a lead, and Will Levis had them Titans on a drive at the end of that game, and the Jets defense just kind of sewed up and made a couple deflections at the right time to seal the deal. But do you kind of take this as like proof that, okay, the Jets are who we think the Jets are supposed to be, or was this kind of like okay, wipe the sweat from your brow, we got out of this one alive?
Wipe your brow, because you should have beat the Titans. Like
yeah.
Like like it shouldn't have been a shootout with Will Levis. Like, let's be realistic here. Like they're rebuilding. They've got some talent, but they're rebuilding. The Jets defense should have basically clamped them down. And for how great Aaron Rodgers is, because like everybody says, they should have hung 25 to 30 on him with ease. But it was a dogfight. So maybe this was getting all the rust off finally. And then next week is when it really, we see the real Jets offense. But
on a short week, no less, against the Patriots.
Upset alert.
Yeah.
So like I don't want to hear the whole Aaron Rodgers, we need to relax and blah blah blah. Like you should have handed this team their business and moved on. But it's gonna be a work in progress. The Jets are gonna have to, like I said, hang their hat on this defense, and this defense is gonna have to keep them in games, because if this defense falters, if a team comes in there and puts 35 on them, I don't know if this offense can match it. I really don't. Not in its state right now.
No, especially with that qualifier on it, the way they are right now, I don't think they would either. Do you think that this is a growing concern with this defense? The fact they got shredded against the Niners, and they kind of struggled just to keep pace with the mighty Will Levis?
I think if you see this week 3, then it's like, all right, first 2 weeks we'll give you. Week 3, week 4, now it's becoming a habit. Like, are you guys reading your own press? Do you guys just think it's gonna switch on? Like what's going on? Is it, oh well, we got Aaron Rodgers now, so if we give up a touchdown, it's okay. Aaron will put 2 on the board real quick for us. I think they kind of feel that way. Oh, we have Aaron Rodgers, so we're gonna be great now. You guys got to understand, that's not the Aaron Rodgers of 5-6 years ago. You got old man Rodgers. You have adequate Aaron Rodgers, who's going to make a couple throws each game where you're going to relive the glory days of his Green Bay days, and then everything else is going to be like, damn, what the hell happened?
I could see that, because last year, obviously, the quarterback situation was not the best, but that defense still went out and busted tail and still was a respectable unit. And now they
Mhm.
kind of feel a little bit of pressure off their shoulders with their guy back, and maybe they don't necessarily take things as seriously anymore. The sauce is mild as opposed to spicy.
Well, that's because that's what everyone was saying. Oh, it's Aaron Rodgers, so this is it. He's the missing piece. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. If you're still having this conversation in week 7 and week 8, there's a problem. You don't have it, and then it's time to say, well, Aaron will be gone, and then we got to figure out who our new guy is going to be.
Yeah. Real quick on the G-men. I mean, obviously, not a lot
They're
of
trash, man. They're straight trash. Let's just call it what it is. They're a trashy team. Shouldn't have signed Danny Dimes. You made the biggest mistake letting Saquon walk away over like $3 or $4 million. You should have signed him because he was the reason your offense worked. Malik Neighbors sitting on the bench all depressed. He's like, damn, what, man, I should have said, no, I didn't want to come here. The team is trash.
Malik Neighbors is having a Devontae Adams or Justin Jefferson situation, putting up all pro numbers. I said, like, is anyone else going to help here?
Seriously, you might as well just put him out there by himself and no one else. Just let him run around for 4 quarters. That team is trash. I'm sorry. Giants fans, your team is trash. Your defense is not going to carry you. Get ready. I forget how many wins we gave you in our show before, but it should be 2 less.
It wasn't a lot, I can tell you that.
If it's 2 less and it's negative, then take your negativity. They should automatically give you the first round pick for the next 3 years. That team is hideous, just bad.
So no moral victory for a tough fought loss to a
You tell me,
rival.
you tell me what the moral victory of that game was. Tell me what it was. What did you see?
I saw Janie Daniels run down the field just to solidify a win in the closing moments. That's what I saw.
Yeah, and how'd that all work out?
Yeah, that's not a good look for the Giants' defense. That's supposed to be the strength.
No, you shouldn't know. The Giants, and this is the front office, did it to themselves. They should have kept Saquon Barkley. And Brian Dable wanted him still. You watch, the Hard Knocks when they find out, Saquon's gone. He storms out of the GM's office all pissed and everything. The fact of the matter is Saquon wanted to be there. You guys didn't want to pony up $3 million. $3 or $4 million, really?
You're freaking New York.
That could be the difference between you guys being 0-2 and 1-1. Because if you had Saquon, you probably would have won today.
Shoot, so far, granted he's playing Monday, but so far Saquon after one game, that's at least a win right there.
It's sad. It's really sad, because you think of the history of the Giants and everything, and you look at this team and you're like, no. So I don't know what they're going to do. They're probably going to win 1 or 2 games where we're going to be like, oh man, look at them. And then, like I said, first round pick, get ready for it. It's over. It's done. Them and Carolina are battling for the number 1 pick. Get ready for it.
Yeah, and it's really a razor thin margin as far as who's worse between those two clubs.
I'll give the Giants the edge right now, but not by much.
Wow, the Panthers couldn't block us, and they're still giving the Giants the edge. Wow.
That's because they have more. I think they have more talent than the Giants. It's just that quarterback. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
If you put Adam Thielen on the Giants, I think they have a better shot.
Yeah.
At least they'd have a decent number 2. So sad. Yeah, like today he was getting overthrown. You see Adam Thielen all mad, rolling his eyes. I'm like, yeah, that's Carolina for you.
So the other big story coming out of this week, besides all the upsets, I should say, the other big story, of course, is going to be the end of this Cincinnati-Kansas City game. And we thought, based off Cincinnati last week, that Kansas City was going to come in here and own them. Now they still come out with a win, but they struggled in this one a little bit. And Patrick looked off. He threw a pick. He couldn't get the ball into Worthy. Kelsey didn't look very effective either. Pacheco was still running hard like usual, but certainly not seeming like he had that big of an effect on the game. Cincinnati should have won this, and the Chiefs got, yet again, a little favor from the black and white crew. So, what's your kind of thoughts on this one? Should the Chiefs be beating their chest about this, or should they kind of just thank their lucky stars and let's just talk about Week 3?
Oh, come on, man. You saw the excitement and Taylor Swift was having at that game. You would have thought it was the Super Bowl again. No, man. And for everyone who's like, the Chiefs are going to three-peat, no. You look at that team, there's no way on God's beautiful green earth that team is going to three-peat. I don't care. They might make their way through the AFC, but if they play any team from the NFC, they're getting their doors blown off. I don't care, and I'll say it. Mahomes does not look good. He does not look good. Travis Kelce, I don't think did anything. I think his biggest contribution was like a holding call that he got in the game. They don't. Pachenko was the highlight of that offense for sure. They don't look good. They should have blew the doors off of this Cincinnati team. But Cincinnati hung in there. Their defense played well, made stupid mistakes, and that's why they lost. So that's 2 games where you didn't really have a definitive win. It wasn't like, wow, that's Kansas City. Oh man, because everyone was bragging about the speed. Where was what's his name there? Worthy. Where's the speedster? Literally didn't see him all game.
Yeah, no.
And that's what everybody talked about after his week 1 breakout. Oh, this is going to be the guy. Now Kansas City's going to be unbeatable. No, you're not. You're still in the same spot. Your wide receivers, Rice was decent. Rice was good, but then that was it. So tell me, like, what is so great and scary about Kansas City?
Yeah.
So no, they got lucky. They got lucky. Yeah, exactly. Because you heard Romo. Oh, anytime 15's got the ball at the end of the game, that's not what you want. Blah blah blah. Well, if what's his name from Cincinnati jumps straight up instead of into the receiver, we're having a whole total different story right now, different conversation.
So that is the other point. I mean, in your eyes, was it the right call, or did they get away with one?
No, it was the right call. It was. He got there early. He got there early. And in that situation, they're going to call it. Like, it's just common sense. You got to time it. You know how the league is. And I would hope coaches beat this in their defense's heads every week, every day. The offense gets the benefit of the doubt all the time. You got to be smart. You got to get there just as the ball gets there. Don't get there a second early, and make sure you're not hitting heads, pulling arms, because they're gonna pull a flag. And you're an Arrowhead, for gosh sakes. You should have known that was going to be a guarantee. Yeah. Now, I'm sure they would have called that if they were in Cincinnati, because it was legit. It was a legit call. But come on, man. They did it to themselves. They had a chance to win, and they didn't.
Do you think to that point about drilling into your coach, drilling into their players' heads? I've seen that we've been seeing this a lot, not just this year, but last year, possibly the year before, where the defenders, I don't want to say they give up, but so many times when you see a replay, they're not looking up. Their arm is like going through the receiver's arm. Their hands are going through the receiver's arms. Like they're almost not trying to be sleight of hand with their physicality guarding somebody down the field. I mean, do you think this is just a bad habit because defensive backs don't know what else to do because they're just going to get called? They get called on so much.
Well, a perfect example of that was Arnold in the Lions Bucks game. He had a couple plays where he got flagged for a PI, but it's because when you're a rookie and stuff, you kind of get away with in college, you get away with that hand checking and stuff like that. Once you get into the league, it's totally different. You got to look for the ball. You got to watch your hands. The vets, when you watch like the veteran cornerbacks play, they always have that ability. Like, you'll see it in the replay, you'll see them pulling down, but it's done in a way where it's out of sight, out of mind. If the ref doesn't see it, doesn't get called. So I think those nuances you learn as the years go on. But some of these guys are just too physical right off the bat because they want to make that impression. They want to make that hit. They want to break that up. They want to do their little, wave and blah, blah, blah after the play. You can't do that. You got to be smart about it. So I think it's something that's got to be learned.
And that's a good point about want to make an impression right away, because I feel like the last shutdown we really saw was Revis, like at least for an extended period of time. And So like everyone wants to be overly physical, but Revis was not really an overly physical receiver. Like he was physical up front, and then he ran with you. Like he really wasn't manhandling guys. Like I think of how aggressive the Patriots corners were back in the day. Like Ty Law was a lot more aggressive on Marvin
Ty,
Harrison
Ty Law
than
was a nasty man.
yeah
But
than Darrelle Revis ever was.
no, exactly. But that was, you still had a little bit of freedom when you were a defender. Now you got to watch exactly what you do. But yeah, those guys knew the nuances and knew positioning and were able to, they looked for the ball like they had those talents. These guys coming out right now, yeah, they're fast. They want to make the splashy plays, but you got to pay attention. You got to know what the ref is looking for, and you can't be stupid. So at the end of the day, Cincinnati had other ways where they could have won this game, and they didn't. It is what it is. They also had, Chase also had a 15-yard penalty arguing with a ref because he thought he got hip tackled, and sometimes you just got to shut up and walk away. That cost them 15 yards. So they shot themselves in the foot. At the end of the day,
silly to see a sign of immaturity with that when he literally just the previous day or the morning of says, "It's like we're not talking about my contract until the season's over." So you would think, it's like, okay, let's put this on the side for now, and then he has a moment of immaturity where he's arguing with the refs over nonsense.
You would hope he would. You would hope he would say, you know what? Let me just play out this year, and because I'm still under contract for 2 years, it's not like it's his last year or whatever. He's playing for free, and we'll figure this out. No. So now is it a situation where this is just a precursor, and you're going to kind of see him just kind of do what he wants to do, kind of get an attitude, kind of maybe play his way out of Cincinnati? Maybe he's like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to be here. They don't want to give me my money. All right, I'm going to give you a reason to get rid of me. I'll tell you, I'm not going to resign with you, and I'm not, and I'm going to be gone. He goes, if it's not this year, maybe it'll be once that last game on that contract, boom, and I'm out.
Yeah. The game just getting underway right now, of course, is Houston and Chicago. We already spent quite a bit of time on this one, but given the way the rest of the Sunday has gone, do you foresee some little magic here in Chicago, pulling off some Vegas Raiders, New Orleans Saints, Minnesota Vikings magic here, or is the ship going to get righted with the favorites?
Houston is one of our few hopes for some normalcy in the league today. I'm hoping that they handle their business from, Caleb week 1. If it's a dramatic turn and he throws for 3 touchdowns and throws for like 290, then, hey, I'll take away everything I said on the past show when I basically said he had to prove it to me, and I called him fraud and whatever I said. But, the Bears are a good defense. I think for the Bears, you just got to slow down the offense and just don't force him to have to, freelance and such like that. Just work within the framework of what you got. But no, like Houston should be able to withstand it, and they've got enough talent around CJ offensively to be able to score enough points. They've got it.
And likewise for Monday's game. Same thing. You think maybe the ship's righted and Philadelphia handles business, who looks significantly better than Atlanta did? Or is the Atlanta we thought from the offseason, gonna finally get their wheels under them, and maybe we'll see Cousins air it out a little bit more to Mooney and London and Pitts and all these weapons that are supposed to be itching at the heels for a real quarterback?
Oh, you mean the Super Bowl?
You want to see.
You mean the Super Bowl bound Atlanta Falcons, because that's what everybody's saying. Well, yeah. Well, I guess, in an interview, Kirk Cousins admitted that, he didn't feel right week 1. He wasn't comfortable running around, and that this week he should be good to go and back to his normal self. Here's the thing. A.J. Brown is out for the Eagles. He's already been, downgraded for the ankle. So it's going to be interesting how this Eagles offense plays. I think it's going to play a little faster. I think you're going to see a little more speed from the receivers and such, which I think is going to be interesting. But now Kirk Cousins he's got to put a win on the board. If they go 0-2, Get ready to hear the Michael Penix cheers. Get ready to hear it, because that's what's going to happen. That is what is going to happen, right? And fans are going to be, what? We're 0-2 like the Panthers? So, no, this is the big stage. This is where the Falcons, this is where they wanted to be. So you want to be on the big stage, you got to perform. So you got to take down the Eagles.
Yeah. Well, Bucks McGee, I think I know where you're going for your final thoughts off the air. Maybe a little bit of a power shift atop the NFC. But overall, sir, take us off air and give me your final thoughts for Week 2 Sunday. Oh, here it is.
So, again, for all of you who dared to doubt the Baker man, your NFL rankings on Monday probably have a little bit of a boost for a team in Tampa, the 2-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For you Giants fans, I'm sorry. Just end the season, move on, live your lives. Chiefs fans, there's no three-peat in your future. You're hearing it here first. But for everybody else, for Team 1, enjoy. If you lost, there's Week 3. Good luck.